What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Strong Life Podcast. This is the first episode of 2026, and very excited. Going to have Ray Zingler on this episode, Zingler Strength. Check him out on Instagram. And if you're in Georgia, make sure you check him out in person. Great dude, very motivated, speaks from the heart, speaks his mind, and I love what he's doing with athletes and with life. So we're going to ask him a bunch of strong life questions. And if you're new here, welcome aboard. And also, thanks to all who keep leaving 5-star reviews and who support the show by getting on the newsletter. Go to zachstrength.com. Here we go. Ray is in the house. Ray, there we go. Connecting to audio. Ray, what's up? You hear me, buddy? Let's see. Oh, you're connecting to audio. I'm already going live. There we go, brother.
Can
You
you hear
hear?
me?
Yes, sir. And I'm already recording.
Awesome.
I did a little intro and very excited to have you on and on New Year's Day. And I asked you an hour ago and you're like, yes, let's go.
That's right, baby. No better time than the present.
You're the
So
man. I had a funny feeling you would be good to go.
I'm ready. I always found, hey, if everybody's chilling on New Year's and Christmas, I want the time with the family, but I'm leaning in, baby. I'm ready to work.
Yes, and I won't we'll make this a shorter episode. We could of course record many episodes down the road, but man, first of all, I'm still kind of upset that I was in Georgia and didn't realize it was 10 minutes away. It was actually embarrassing.
Well, hey, you were with the fam, and I understand. So no, I'm glad to obviously chat any chance we get an opportunity.
You're the man. So I love what you're doing, man. I love a lot of stuff that you're doing. Of course, you share clips and snippets of it. You've got your new home gym, which is one of the most amazing. I think it's better than the Rocks gym.
Well, that's
It's
given me some perk, but I appreciate that.
it's really amazing. And if I back up from there, Ray, I remember seeing just like things like video clips of your dogs, your farm, kind of going hunting, watching your kids grow up a little bit as they get to experience like growing up with you and growing up around the business of the
Sure.
strength and conditioning. So it's been great to see. I feel like recently from watching your work, there's been a big uptick of growth. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I think you'll attest to this. It's just a byproduct of just consistency and hammering out, the fundamentals, the fundamentals, the fundamentals. And then it's also a mix, and something I learned from you and a lot of folks is just being almost bullishly authentic to where it's like, they're going to love you or they're going to hate you either way. I may as well be myself. A lot of times I think we get in these boxes where it's like we've got to say the right thing or what we think this might resonate with or what this might resonate with. And I just let go of all of that. And it's like, I am who I am. This is what I do. I'm just going to share it and I'm going to share it consistently. And where I think I've been able to kind of find my lane is I'm not trying to pretend to be or do anything that I'm not already doing. So I don't there's not a plan in the morning of, well, let's try to make it look doctored up and pretty. I'm just shooting it raw and real off the cuff. And I think there's a draw to that as much as we live in this kind of, you know, commercialized, doctored up feeling world. I think there's that draw to real. And that's just trying to do that on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and in full transparency, I've said many times that anytime I've gone out of my lane and started wondering, is this not the right way to say it or to do
Sure.
this or to market to this group of people, or should I not say this? I'm going to
Right.
offend parents. It always, it just doesn't work. And I remember hearing his name's Henry Winkler. He played the Fonz in whatever that show was, Happy Days, and
Yes.
somebody was interviewing him and he said they asked him what was like the biggest lesson in Hollywood. He said, anytime I denied my gut instincts, it was like getting hit in the mouth with a 2x4.
Right,
I
right.
said, oh man, perfect.
100%. And it's like those people, the folks that I might worry about, oh, if I say it like this demographic of people might be offended or not see eye. They're not buying your product anyway. You know what I'm
Correct.
saying? So it's like you're trying to, be the pretty face to that group of people who even if you're perfect, they're not your people anyway. So it's like I may as well be myself and attract that type of person that I'm after anyway, than trying to again have this wide mass audience that again, even if I was perfect, they're not going to buy it. So it's like I am who I am. I'm very comfortable with that. I know what I want. I know the game that I'm playing. I'm not playing obviously everybody wants to be successful, but I look at money and I look at finance as a tool to be able to build out the lifestyle that I want to live and enjoy with my family. So again, I might have a different strategy if I was chasing the almighty dollar. If I was trying to maximize profit margins and make every penny, maybe I'd go about it a different way. But I've just found that I can have a lot of fun doing this. I can spend the time I want with my family, living on my terms, just being myself. I would rather do that and leave $100,000, $200,000 on the table every year, getting to live my life versus me being owned by this perception that the internet and the external world wants to see of me. So, and I've just accepted that. So,
That's the ultimate win, though, is freedom, life on your own terms. That's the ultimate. We had a conversation, we go back and forth with conversations, texting. And so
sure.
speaking of trying to appease somebody accidentally that would never really be all in, let's talk with like the gym. Um, have you within the past year or so made a mistake where you trained, whether it's an athlete or an adult, and you're like, dang it, I never should have let this person in, and you had to cut them loose? Because it's been a while since I have quote unquote fired clients. I used to do it a lot more, I think, when I was younger. But have you had a little lapse in judgment in recent years?
Yeah. So, like, one of the biggest pillars of our business is I tell our guys, hey, the gym is to never wear a mask. We are who we are. This is the way we train. This is what we're doing. This is the music we're here to get after. Now, I'm not going to intentionally try to offend somebody just playing, flagrantly disturbing music, but we're not putting, buoys up in the middle of this gym. And the other pillar is don't compromise culture. We are not going to try to be somebody else or say the right thing. But again, there have been times where it's like, you know what? And where I struggle, where we work with a lot of athletes, is I want to serve every kid. And I know that some parents, they may not understand it, but I know that the kids still need a lot of what we're doing. So I've been duped, if you want to call it that, by knowing the dad was kind of this isn't a great fit, but I want to serve that kid.
Yes.
And then, sure enough, this happened last year. I've got a dad who's never had any experience with strength and conditioning, and he's given us a chance with his son, and he drops his son off. Mind you, at our gym, I don't allow parental viewing, not because I have anything to hide, but I don't want to take away from the organic nature of the environment where the kids can be kids and be
Yeah.
themselves and bond. Well, this dad is always peeking over the fence. What's going on? What are we doing? Lift with your butt, not your back, and just all this stuff. And it's like, goodness gracious. And this kid, he's got his shoulders slumped down. Like, why is my dad the only one here?
Yes.
And I felt terrible for him. But again, the dad eventually would come up, and I just got to the point, and I said it publicly. I said, sir, if you want to train your son, please, there's a million different options that are far more cost effective than this. So it wasn't a get out of here, but it was a, hey, I've got your refund waiting right now, and this will be the
Sure.
last time. And he picked up my vibe. And it was just one of those things where it was like, gosh, I know that kid he wanted to be a part of it because he lived under the roof of that father who was obviously very, I can only imagine if he was that irrational in a public environment, how is he at his house? You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? So, those are things where it's like, that's good money to lose, in my opinion, because
Yep.
again, you let that kind of dictate you. Now I ask the question, do I own my business or does the business own me if I'm being dictated by people who are, again, making me feel uncomfortable in my own space?
Yeah, it's
So,
very awkward for the kid when it's a group and that kid is the only one with a parent
Right,
interjecting, and then you know that the kid wants to have the experience,
right,
and then you feel horrible
right,
because, as you said, it's awkward for them, and he's trying to get away from that, and it could be a
right.
he or she, and
Sure,
then and you're like, dang it, if the dad is blowing it uh in this like area, he's probably blowing it for like all the other opportunities of the kid. And really what happens is those kids, they end up quitting sports
right.
and they end up trying to get away from the family. It's
Uh-huh.
it's it's
It's
so heartbreaking what has happened with sports, to be
Oh,
honest.
it's crazy. And it's funny. You say it like that, and it's like I've lived that and watched that happen to where I see some of these kids 10 years later who is seventh, eighth grade boys. They were vibrant and athletic and wanted to wrestle or play this. And then you see them at 20 years old at the grocery store with a face tattooed, just having dejected body language. And it's like, I can't blame a parent. I didn't see the whole story, but from the limited snippet that I saw, these parents, they don't have self-awareness. They're not understanding the big picture of all of this. Sometimes it's like they're living in the here and now. And as you just alluded to, trying to live vicariously through their own children. I saw something even this morning. It was like, and I think it was Mike Boyle. It was like the goal of sports is to obviously prepare these kids for life, to learn how to be a part of a team, how to
Yes.
overcome adversity, all these fundamental lessons. And now it's like, I think the uptick is a lot for the parents to be able to brag upon their kid that my kid plays on the A team over here or the B team. You ought to see it, Zach, in our town, in these local travel organizations. The orange shirt is the top team, the blue shirt is the second team. So these people will wear the sweatshirt to the grocery store to know, hey, we got the
Yeah.
orange shirt. What the hell are you doing, man? I mean, it's just it's insane.
Yeah,
It's
it's
insane.
it's sad to see blended with insanity. And yeah, man, travel sports has really been sad to see. And you being in the warmer weather, that impacts certain sports on an even higher degree, like soccer and baseball, because they could be outside year round. So today's New Year's
100%.
Day. And when my daughter was in middle school, we used to go, in elementary school, we'd go down to Florida a lot. And I remember my daughter was getting tennis training on, I don't know if it was the day of Christmas Eve, but then my son was getting baseball training. There was full out baseball games going on,
Oh,
Little
for
League
sure.
on
Absolutely.
Christmas Eve. I was like, man, this can't be good for the body, like to
Right.
not have a break from sport. I think a lot of people think what we say, right, might be self-serving, meaning strength training year round is good, but basketball year round, not good. Neither is baseball, neither is tennis, even
Right.
swim. The repetitive use and motion is not good. And of course, people would say, "Oh, it's self-serving." You guys are saying you should train year round, and I think about that like with your consistency post yesterday that you
Sure.
have trained. Is it over 1,000 days in a
Yeah,
row?
I think today was 1461 or something like that.
So that's
Yes.
4+ years in a row,
Right.
right?
Yes. For you. Today was the first day of the fifth year. So
Oh my
yes.
God.
Yes. And now
Talk.
there's a caveat to that, and I'll
Okay.
allude to it. I tried to, and I got this from Dan John. He said there was a quote in one of his books. I think it was "Never Let Go." The quote was, "If it's
Love that
important,
book.
yeah, it's great. If it's important, do it every day." And I just thought to myself, all right, training is obviously very important to me. I think much like you, we train for it's not always about muscle mass and who can squat the most weight. There's a mental component to it. And I established training is something I'm very passionate about. And if it's important, do it every day. Well, now the kicker is I've got to train benignly enough each day so that I can recover and repeat the effort the next day. So I kind of use this comparison, a baseball analogy. I'm not trying to hit any home runs. I'm really not even trying to hit doubles or triples. I'm trying to hit a shitload of singles. I'm just trying to check the box every day, because what I've found is that I'm generally sharpest in my business with my family and these extracurriculars that I've got going on after I've quote paid the man a little bit. And again,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be the hero, but it's one of those where I think just the act of, inducing this self-induced struggle on a daily basis and just making it a non-negotiable commitment, I I've just found a value in that. You look at me, it's not like, oh, he's trained 1,400 days in a row and now he looks like, Branch Warren or Ronnie Coleman. Again, the workouts are again important to me, but it's not trying to be the Instagram hero of that. And it's really that kind of putting my money where my mouth is from a standpoint of the consistency, but doing it in a way that is repeatable. Because as we know, you don't have to do this, and I tell people it's probably not the best thing to do every single day, but it's just a personal thing for me that this is my non-negotiable that I'm going to commit to doing it every day, whether I slept well, I don't feel well, I flew over here, I'm in this part of town, I'm finding a way to get it done. And I just feel like the act of doing so has positively contributed to some of the other areas of my life, to quote, doing the shit you don't always want to do.
Yeah, I asked in your Instagram, but you could probably elaborate on it better than in an Instagram post. So, how do you plan your training and like how far out? So, is it like a hard day, an easy day? What does your kind of
Yeah, no, it's an
big
awesome.
picture view look like?
Yeah, again, to steal Dan John again, he was very big on training with the seasons, so again,
Uh,
just to start a calendar year, my winter time is, let's just start in the beginning of the year. You think more of like strength or hypertrophy focus, where you're wearing the sweatshirts and you've got the hoods on. I'm really doing a lot of quote base building in the winter time. And then when spring rolls around, I get into what I call more of a consistent challenge. In years past, I've done programs like swings and stairs, where I'll go to the
yes.
stadium steps and I'll do kettlebell swings and stairs. I've done squats and sleds, where I'll do 10 goblet squats and 10 sleds. Just something, again, it's more of like a discipline contributor, just to again punch the clock every day. Come summertime, I'm very, very busy with a lot of our kids and college kids that are home. So I make it more of a kettlebell time, where I'm just knocking it out with the kettlebell, something I can slam in 30, 40 minutes. In the fall time, that's usually when I commit to some sort of new training program, or exposing myself to something that I'm not very familiar with, to kind of practice during the fall time. I have a little bit more time because the kids are back in school. So really, I look at it in the context of, there's 4 seasons of the year, and I kind of have themes in my head for those 4 seasons, and then I kind of adapt and evolve it as I go. But I never really set it up in a way that's too far out, because obviously things can change, commitments can change. But from there, I kind of break it into 3-week little mini cycles, followed by a deload week. So, if you're very familiar with Jim Wendler, he's got his fives week, his threes week, his 5-3-1, then followed by a deload week. So I really have, of a 4-week cycle, you have the first week. I generally use that as kind of like building my capacity. The second week, I'm getting after it pretty good. The third week, that's my quote heavy week. The fourth week is more of a deload week. So as much as I'm training every day and
Yep.
every week, it's like I'm really only busting ass, 50% of the time during those weeks 2 and 3 of these 4-week mini cycles, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I love it. I used to be very regimented with that pretty much same system when I was first opened the underground. And I remember learning that deload week of just high rep pump up work, and we
Right.
would take a break from the barbell. If they didn't want to do it, it still made the next cycle of week one much better.
100%, 100%. I got
Yeah.
that from Louis and West Side. He was very big on like hundreds of reps of hamstring curls and
Yes.
tricep extensions and everything. And again, it
Love it.
wasn't necessarily the muscle side, it was the tendon side that he was big on. He's always trying to build the tendons, because you have to have the volume to tendon strength and health, so it's funny. And I see you're the strongest shall survive in the background. Some of these
Yes.
old school adages, it was like, these guys were so far ahead of the science that we have today.
Yep.
But again, there is still a ton of efficacy to all this stuff. And now in today's world, you have the science bro who, again, you see the videos, they're in a commercial gym. Instead of just using the tricep rope, they're tying it in a knot and putting their elbow through it and doing a rear. It's like, what the hell are we
Out of
doing, guys?
control.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's just
It's
anything to get
really
a
out of
click.
control. Um, what was the recent training cycle in the fall for you?
Yeah, so
What
this
yeah, what was that?
I'll get into that. So during the fall, I was building the new
That's
facility
right.
that you alluded to. So it was one of those where I had a little bit of an adjustment this year, but I kind of I wrote a book, and obviously you were the author of the forward of that book, this broad axe training, which again was designed to be able to do this when you're at your busiest, when you don't have time. It's a very straightforward punch the clock, squat hinge, push pull carry type program. And I followed that this fall, really to kind of like to live and lead by example. Like, who did I write this for? You know, a lot of times, and I'll be very honest, I live in a gym all the time. I have a lot of flexibility. I can really train however I want because I can kind of manipulate the variables to serve me. Well, when I was in this building phase, I literally didn't have I didn't have time. I didn't have the normal time that I have. And I'm thinking, like, I still need to train. I still need to, why not do the program that I built and designed for busy individuals and live that code myself? So again, it wasn't the prettiest cycle, but every day I found a way to squat hinge, push, pull, carry, whether that was grabbing a chunk of a cinder block and doing goblet squats with a cinder block.
Love
Hey, if
that.
I needed to go do push-ups while I'm sitting out here with a skid steer, and, you know, it's funny. I had buddies that were helping me build this thing and do this, and I'd go for a break and I'd drag a sled 100 yards, and it didn't look pretty, but it was like, I'm getting the work in
Work.
however I need to get it done. And then I learned a lot from these construction guys that were working over here. None of them, at least not to my knowledge, you know, strength trained regimentally, but I see these guys carrying 100-pound sacks, a quick crete over their shoulder. They're lifting up these big, 300-pound beams. And it was such a stark reminder to me about it's just fucking work, coach. It's just
Yes.
work. It's just work. It's just work. So I'm sitting here internally like, well, my program didn't look as linear as, and this guy over here is smoking a cigarette, lifting a 400-pound beam up over his head. And I'm thinking, who am I to need to get all pretty and think that it's got to be, regimented and dialed all the time? I do value that. But sometimes it's just like, shut the hell up and get it done. And I
Yes.
really had that reminder, this past fall and winter, to just lean into the work. If it's sub up, I didn't get my warm up, just go, and it was really fun to be able to just let go of that, because again, you do have all the knowledge. I do have we can make it pretty and perfect. And sometimes I found we make it so pretty and we forgot the part where you actually have to bust your ass, so that was really fun for me to be forced to just adapt like that.
Yeah, it's like I've always been inspired by that farm boy work mentality and also capacity. And so you mentioned Dan John. I think Dan John was inspired with that quote from maybe Dan Gable talking about pull-ups every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's where
Pe
it came from, right?
yeah, I think that's where it came from. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I know he's mentioned Dan Gable. And people who maybe don't know this because he's now quote unquote older. When I was learning from Dan John early years, he was a strength coach in a private school out in Utah, and
Yes. I think he
his
coached track too. He was a track
oh
and
yeah, he
field
was a
coach. You're right.
track and field coach,
Right.
and I may have bought, I think it was a VHS tape, and I think he doesn't like when it happened, but it was from CrossFit. I think I purchased it, or maybe it was the Jim Jones early website. But
Right.
basically it was like all about sleds and carries.
Right.
And then I had read on a forum about the gymnastics basics that he did with high school kids. So I basically took all of that and implemented it. So he would have kids doing cartwheels and tumbling
Right.
down like a lane of his weight room, all those carries. And it's basically like I like to give credit. Like I stole that stuff because I was like, man, this stuff is crucial. And just now hearing you talk about it, I'm like, sometimes I forget and we get away from cartwheels and more work capacity type workouts. So when you're training, like if we take what you're doing now and when you're training the athletes, are they also doing a 3 week mini cycle and a deload?
Yes. Usually I cut out the deload just because it's so the kids are bound with the way sports are now, they're bound to miss a workout or two,
Yes.
obviously, over that cycle. So it's like I generally take the deloads out just because I feel like life is going to deload them. But to kind of echo your point that you were just making, and again, with my own son, I'm very big on the work capacity and the gymnastics. I get some of these middle school and high school kids, and we think that, and I think you'll agree with me, 20 years ago, 15 years, the kids were different and they had that general work capacity because they were
Yes.
playing outside man, and maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I have kids that can't skip, much less do a cartwheel. They can't skip,
Oh
they
yeah.
can't do a somersault. So it's like I can run all of these like super professional strength and conditioning programs that I know by the book are right, but it's like, is it right for a kid who can't crab walk or duck walk? You know what I mean? So a lot of
Agreed.
times we're implementing, some of these very, very foundational skills that, again, when you and I were kids, we did them in gym class and things like that. They don't do that anymore. So
Correct.
I've said, as much as I'm a sports performance guy, I've even got to pump my own brakes because I'm not dealing with 1980s Russian kids who are physically literate. These guys aren't
Yes. Isn't
they're
it funny
not.
that
Oh,
the
it's
internet
crazy.
will share, something that the Soviets did before it was even Russia, and
Right.
they're saying to you, "Hey, this is how you should train kids." But everything you said, Ray, I really hope it hammers home with people. Like we also don't deload anymore because we don't have the consistency we once
Right.
did.
Right.
They're they're disappearing because of sports. And also what reminded me is you're like, dude, kids can't skip. And so we had kids that could do basic gymnastics. If I do a cartwheel today with kids, they will break their
Oh,
neck.
it's insane. They don't even have like the wherewithal that, sometimes, and it
They go
sounds silly.
backwards.
You're right. And they don't know how to fall. It's one of those
Yep,
things like I do drills with my young children where I'll
I
have them
see
climb
it.
stall bars and just jump off. And then I take away, we've got these crash pads and I get a little bit of a harder pad. So they learn how to tuck and roll and how to manipulate their bodies. And I think too, with a lot of these non-contact injuries we see today, there's a variety of reasons from a lack of strength, a lack of tendon preparedness, but a lot of times they don't have like these reflexes that a lot of times, like, hey, when you were jumping off stones or doing monkey bars and fell, you learn those little things as a
Correct.
kid. Kids go up for a rebound and they come down flat footed. And I'm thinking, do we have to teach landing? I learned landing because if I fell from a monkey bars at 6 years old, I
Yep.
was going to eat shit if I didn't learn how to orient my body correctly. So it's almost like it sounds silly, and a lot of people would think, oh, well, my kid's too advanced for learning how to land or learning how to fall, and it's like they never learn that in the real world. So it's almost like, am I going to sit here and give some kid some maximized strength and conditioning program who needs the fundamentals? And I'll lose kids because, well, they're doing a little bit more advanced. Then go down the road then, because I'm
Right.
not going to prematurely advance your child, because I'm going to give him what I know he needs, not what you, the parent who is often unknowing, thinks he should be getting because you see the barbell squats on Instagram. There's a lot of ground to cover with body weight squats and isometrics
Oh
and
yeah.
goblets and sandbag squats. I love that stuff because it's like, while it may not be advanced, strength is strength, right? And if I can increase somebody's strength with an easier mechanism, i.e., a goblet squat over putting a bar on a kid's back who might not be ready for it,
Yep.
I'm going to do that. And if that doesn't make you happy because your buddy at, LA Fitness is doing barbell with piss poor technique, then fine, then go do that. But we're after development. We're not trying to just appease what we think it should look like, because the kids today, they're not the kids of yesterday who had a
It's
lot of
true.
this foundational strength already built up. And I'm not knocking them. It's a lot of it's the parents and society and what we value and tolerate.
Yep.
That's why, it's unfortunate, but it's reality, and it's our job, I believe, as strength coaches, to react to reality, not the way it used to be or what we think it should be.
Yes, I actually had to I shared that at the last underground strength con as I said, I'm still learning how to let go of what we used to do and who we used to train. And you
Right.
see the physiques of the athletes I trained
Oh,
pre 2010, killers.
fucking
Today,
savages.
I
Yep.
always say those kids just they're gone and I have
Right.
to
Right.
accept that. When
Right.
you mentioned like not even knowing how to bend the knees on landing, I'm pretty sure I've seen you testing vert jump with the jump mat. Am I right?
Yes, I have a jump mat, and the OVR is another
Yes.
system that we
So
use now. Yeah.
we got the sprint OVRs, timing gates. We have the
Good.
jump mat, and you just reminded me that like when we teach them, when we test them on the jump, I've noticed that all of a sudden we put this mat out and they forget how to jump and they
Right.
land with stiff legs. And you have to
Oh,
say, hey, you have to bend your knees. And that
r-
should actually be what the human body normally does. And it
100%.
really, it's such a sign, Ray, of what you said. It's parent expectations, it's travel sports. You mentioned phys ed class. I taught 12 years elementary phys ed, and I did a different, I did a conjugate method for phys ed.
Right.
Every
Amen.
month was a different sport,
Right.
and
Right.
it built athleticism. And so it's interesting that even phys ed has been dumbed down.
For sure.
I want to like ask you this last question. I don't want to
Sure.
crush your time here on New Year's Day. When you were mapping out your new personal home gym, it's a barn. I mean, I don't even want to
Yes.
say it's a
Right.
home gym. It needs a better word.
Oh,
What what did the planning look like for you? Did you start journaling? Did you get out like an actual blueprint? Because the vision and what it looks like is just absolutely amazing. So I'd love to hear how the planning process looked.
for sure. So where I'm sitting right now in this barn or home gym, whatever we want to call it, is a mile from where I grew up. And as a kid, my father would drive me down this back road that we're on right now, and I saw this house that's again 50 yards from me. And I said, one day I'm going to buy that house. And I said this when I'm 12 years old. I'm going to buy this house and build a big barn on it one day. That's my dream. And then, sure enough, 20 years later, the house came for sale. I bought the house, and I had a contingency on the sale was that I could build a structure that is actually larger than the footprint of the actual home. It's an old farmhouse, so I needed to get approval from the city to be able to build a structure here. And anyway, it started on a napkin. Sometimes those old school ideas to where, hey, this is what I want. I've been in the gym space long enough. I know that I'd like to have some meeting space, some hangout space. So I drew it up on a napkin. I submitted it to the county. They told me to go jump in a lake. They said that's not a good enough drawing. So I said, okay. I got some graph paper and I drew this up on the graph paper and I told them the dimensions, the size, how I was going to construct it. And sure enough, it got approved. I have a local builder friend who came in. We poured the foundation. We started with the roof so we could kind of dry ourselves in. And then from there, and the builder is such a great buddy of mine, we just got into, hey, you want this here? You want this there? And as we were going, I just kind of evolved it to what it is now. But it started with just a bullish idea as a 12-year-old kid. And now at 35 years old, I'm doing my best to try to show that young kid with a dream that hey, we're doing this damn thing. So
It's
it's
amazing.
been
I've
cool.
spoken of that idea myself, and just the whole issue now is like where I live in a town, Ray, it's a beach town. Like my
Right.
backyard is the size of that one turf lane where I see
Right.
your stall bars.
Right.
But I think it's very important for men, like what you're saying, you have to have a dream and a goal and to keep aiming for something, because as soon as you're like, I've arrived,
Right.
you need something that's pushing you. And talking about like you writing on a napkin, I will often I have two journals. One is kind of like for the gym and the other one is personal. Are you
Right.
writing and kind of mapping out plans for
A-
the
a-
time ahead?
Absolutely. It's one of those where I look at it, and Zach, I don't want to eat much of your time either, but I think of it in the context of decades. Okay. From 20 to 30, I worked 100 hours a week. I didn't go on vacation. I didn't do Thanksgiving dinner. I was just work, 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 work. I was trying to get my foot in the door from 20 to 30. And then now in my 30 to 40 decade, my goal is really to kind of leverage my efforts from 20 to 30 and be resourceful with some of the investments that I made and some of the properties that I've purchased, et cetera, et cetera. And then my next decade of life from 40 to 50, I don't want to win the game. I want to own the game. So I want to basically, I don't ever think I'll retire, but 40 on, I don't want anybody to be able to tell me what I can or can't do with my time. And I know there's going to be things that are outside of my control and life is going to happen, but I'm trying to position myself instead of living in the micro. What's the next thing I want? So, again, my next endeavor, I'd really like to have kind of a family ranch where, again, we're off the beaten path. We're able to kind of control all of our variables from a standpoint of our food and our resources, and be able to live a life that, to me, is the way that it meant to be lived versus instead being stuck in these little cubby holes with a phone in front of our face. So that's really my next desire, my next journey. Now, it's not to say that I'm not where my feet are and trying to focus on enjoying where I'm at. I'm very grateful. I'm very blessed. But, you alluded to it. Sometimes if we get complacent, now we feel like we can coast. It's like my bank accounts. I don't ever want to see a lot of money in those. I give them away to my advice. I want it to look like we're thin and scrapping and fighting. And the reason is that helps keep me sharp. Whereas if I open my banking app and I see a bunch of zeros, I can get fat and happy for a second. So I almost, and again,
Interesting.
it sounds silly, but I'm trying to, I know what's there, but I wanna feel like we're fighting a little bit, just because, again, every success I've experienced in my life, I was taking risks and I wasn't fully ready for it, but I jumped anyway. And now, hey, I want to be a little bit more risk averse as I get older and I have family and other obligations. But to think that I'm just going to sit here and kick my feet up, I'd rather die. So I micromanage that environment to make it look harder than it really is for us, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
it reminds me of a quote from Naval where he said, the, I don't know if he said the best way or the only way to win the game is to not play the game. So you're creating your own
amen.
game.
Amen. That's
Yes,
exactly it. That's
I,
exactly it.
I love it. So people can go to Zingler Strength and find you on Instagram,
Yes,
and then
English strength.
zinglerstrength.com.
Yes.
And the
Yep.
book is on Amazon.
Book is on Amazon, and I've got a couple of other programs. I wrote a program
Yes,
here recently for younger elementary age
I saw
children
it.
that cover a lot of what we discuss with the basic gymnastics and skipping and hopping and rolling and crawling. And then I've got a couple of kettlebell programs as well on zinglerstrength.com. So
Nice. And it looks like a coach can come out and do some consulting with you and even like sleep at the barn.
absolutely. So we built a living quarter in the barn, so that way when
Love
we
it.
have guests or coaches come in, that we can give them the full experience. So
Yeah, and I can't tell you how powerful that could be for somebody. Like they could spend a few days with you investing in themselves, and as I like to say, it will pay you back for a lifetime.
100%. I think you could learn more in 3 days with the right guy than 3 years of university just kind of going through the motions. And that's not to knock that, but I
It's
think
the
there's a lot
truth.
of there's a
Yes,
lot of fluff in the system. And I want to give people the brass tacks, just shoot it straight. This is what it looks like. This is what you need to do. So
love it. You're the
awesome.
man, Ray. Happy New Year,
Awesome.
my bro.
Happy New Year to you, coach. Thank you.
Big thanks for being on the show, and I will talk to you soon, my brother. Thank you, my bro.
All right,
Well,
brother.
I'm also going to reach out to you after this. I'm going to finish up a closeout, and I'll reach out to you, my brother.
Awesome. Thanks, Z.
Thank you, Ray. Okay, guys. So amazing time with Ray. I love what he's doing over at Zingler Strength. Whether it's the training, the lifestyle, and we're getting snippets from what he does, but I love seeing the passion, the intensity, what's going on over there in his barn gym. And his training business is, I don't think it's on his house, his personal house, but it's on like a property that he owns, and then he's got that personal barn. And very, very, very inspiring. So thanks to everybody for watching or listening. And if you want to catch all these episodes, this is like episode 544, I think. You go to my website, zachevanish.com, and you click on the category of podcasts. That being said, I think on Apple, you might be able to go back up to 200 episodes. I could be wrong, but man, I've been doing this for 14 years, I think, the Strong Life podcast. So go in, check it out. If you're a strength coach, we have certifications. If you're a dad who wants to coach your kids, Those certifications would be very powerful for you. And of course, if you have questions, respond to my newsletter at zachstrength.com. I'll talk to you guys soon. All resources are linked up below. We've also got a fundraiser coming up, Lift Strong. I started in 2007. It's going to be at the Underground Strength Gym in Manasquan. And so if it's 2026, we're going on 19 years or 18 years, something like that, of doing this event. Oh no, 19 years. And you'll see our sponsors are there. We're working on getting more sponsors. We have INTEK Strength on board with sponsoring. I've reached out to some other companies. They help us provide prizes. If you are a supplement or equipment or a strength training clothing company or education company, and you could provide prizes, let us know. We will link you back and, of course, announce you on social and podcast. But INTEK Strength, always on board. They are also my partners with the Farm Bar. If you're interested in the Farm Bar, just send me an email. That's it, guys. Big thank you. Talk to you soon and Happy New Year.